Welcome to Precise Elements, where we discuss the depths of the psychology of world formation in late Platonism and the imagination. This is a continuation of part 7, part 7a, where we have, at the end of which we have created this icon with its inner planes of inner formative planes, and we said that we are going to unfold this icon in three dimensions, but this is also a continuation of a question that we had about whether there's something else to say about the evidence, overwhelming evidence of evolution. This is part of that, of our investigation. Living nature, ever flowing, is tethered to intermediate, instantly forming harmonic planes or dimensions of awareness. These are living planes of awareness. They're not, nothing is dead here. When we unfold this icon in 3 dimensions, I also need to say that this beautiful picture with water flowing over the dam, water is an icon for nature, and it is the idea of ever flowing that's conveyed here. So when we unfold this icon in 3 dimensions, it looks like this, and we are going to use this structure throughout this presentation to make some points that I would like to convey, that I think is important for a deeper understanding. In wait a minute. We have a through axis here, which is the line in the Republic of Plato that Socrates discusses. We have at the top, at the point in our previous video, we have real being or real existence. The one of Plotinus, God, is beyond being or real existence. There's nothing we can say or point to it. We have no words that can express what God, who God is. So we place real being, the upper point here, and being, we said, is omnipresent and is one form containing many forms, harmony. Oops. In the lower pole, we have the external corporeal flowing world. Then this axis has a special significance. In 500 BC, Pythagoras envisaged such a vibrating axis, a string around which the whole world continuously vibrates, and in the manner of a whirlpool or a vortex or a spiral, but that there is one through axis, a string, as he describes it, around which the whole world revolves. We have real being, omnipresent. Some other views that we have that connects with being. The upper pole is truth, beauty, love. These are very central concepts in Plato, and I added symmetry here because that is the idea of, together with all these, of Damascus, who places symmetry there. the most perfect symmetry, real being, and all evolutions downward from that would be an evolution of difference. We'll see as we move on how this would unfold. Now, in the previous video, we indicated how the world soul is called harmony because she is anchored in the upper pole together with real being and its harmonics, real being the cause and principle. So she coexists with real being as being the creation of being and intellect. So the soul would hold everything within herself together with being, and it's coexistent with being everywhere. Being, spirit, and harmonic form therefore precedes and pervades through all forming worlds and body. There are 4 interconnected convertive causal cosmic planes, and we've put them like this in the form of a triangle, because that's the other beautiful icon of Plato. In the upper pole we have abiding being and eternal illumination, and in the lower pole we have the flowing unfolding nature, the illuminated corporeal world. The interconnected world axis indicates an upward and a downward psychical formation, with being as the anchor, ever abiding being in the upper pole, and the lower pole we are come to that's where our self-knowledge is an interconnection. But in every plane there is an abiding principle. There is nothing that is without being. So this axis is a through conversion, an elevating return according to self-knowledge and the becoming. The 4 major convertive planes, why do I say that these are convertive? Because there is a conversion from, if we can, from knowledge, being the perfection of the knowledge of being downward. There is a conversion according to difference. So there's always a downward according to difference and an upward conversion according to unity. Well, who is the unity? It is the unity abiding, the masculine principle abiding in every plane. Nothing is without being. There is an upward and a downward involution and evolution that brings forth instantaneously the generated corporeal world. Involution and evolution has the idea of a whirlpool, a vortex, or a spiral attached to it. Watch the video, our part 6, we discuss this a little more there. An upward conversion according to unity and symmetry, because the most perfect symmetry is seated in being, and the greatest difference is seated in the corporeal visible world. So there is a downward conversion according to participation and a pattern asymmetry, like we just said. Here we have a connection between being and all forming knowledge in one living symmetry knowledge, and one living knowledge. Here in the downward pole we have the human life, self-knowledge, and the visible world. This is the cave of Plato, or calypso of Homer. In this we have the one God beyond being, the root principle of all wholeness. We have two higher cosmic planes, which we must understand as in this work as a united and impartable unity. Being is, according to Proclus here, he describes that as a whole of wholes, the most perfect whole of wholes. In Thomas Taylor's work of around 1800 AD. And this is also known in these works as nous, or the intelligible dimensions. We have the incorporeal all, which is seated in this impartable unity, ever abiding, luminous world forms, vibrating forms, without separation and division. And this is known here as the described by Taylor as the ideal plane, living harmonic patterns, world forming archetypes. We have the two lower planes after that, where we will find the causes of division and separation. In Adam and Eve, there has been a separation from Eden. This would be a great analogy to that in a certain sense. We have a higher sensible plane. Let me just get my picture out of the... Hey, my... Let me just see if I can get my... there it is. Get my picture out of there a bit. The higher sensible plane. This is to be understood as one sensible being, one sense of the whole universe, the vivifying vitality, one world forming principle. This is above nature. The final cause in Proclus, let me just see if I can get this order. The final cause unfolding the higher sensible plane is the final cause unfolding the lower mundane order, which is this, symbolized by this circle here. The mythology for this plane, the higher sensible plane, is, I'm putting this in because it's an important aspect of late Platonic works. Saturn, or Kronos, is the unity abiding, and Rhea, the Divine Mother, abiding, forming principles. The secondary forming causes would be on this plane. The secondary forming causes would be Juno, which is in Greek Hera, Zeus, and Jupiter. In late Platonism, things do not originate from baser matter and more shadowy natures, as we have seen. Being is the whole of wholes in the upper pole, and in the lower sensible plane we are doing these two. There are two intermediate planes. The lower sensible plane is known as the mundane causal world plane or dimension, and this here has to do with the distribution of souls in the world. This is a distinct feature of the work of Thomas Taylor, the mundane lower plane, dividing and separating causes or the soul. Mythology here is Dionysius or Bacchus, Ceres, Demeter, and Minerva. Wine signifies distribution and division of world participating souls, not intoxication as the standard model would have it. The mundane plane, there is the 6 books of Proclus on the Theology of Plato, only has 6 books. There is a 7th book that has gone missing, which is applied by Thomas Taylor in his 7th book. And this is where this information can be perused. Here I will put a link in the description to all of these things. To sum this part, being ever abiding, a united simplicity, undivided and impartible, always remaining in the upper pole, without corporeal contact, without color, without figure, or contactless, colorless, and figureless. The sun I placed in here, viewed as principle, this can be seen in the Republic, illuminates more than one world plane, viewed as principle. So the universe is one living continuity and interconnected wholeness through this line, and many knowledge participations. I will put all the links in the description. The generated corporeal visible world, quantity and quality, with contact, color, figure, or form. We see up here without contact, without color, and without figure. The generated corporeal visible world with quantity, parts that we can count, is mountains, trees, houses, and so on. Contact, we have the contact is our psychological contact with the world. Color, quality, and figure, form. So here we have being, always abiding in eternity. I got my things all mixed up here. So the next couple of slides we are going to look at what Proclus says about time, how time is interconnected with the whole of our icon here. I'm sorry for the mix-up here. From the perspective of time, we have being and abiding, eternally abiding. The one of Plotinus is beyond being, and so therefore beyond eternity. There is one universal stability, viewed as one wholeness, including the moon and the earth. Oops. Here we have the ideal plane. This is also eternal, eternal harmonic illumination. And in these works, in Plato's work, and particularly in these works, time is circular. And this also is in the 6 books of Proclus. Time is a circular, always occurring in circles, with being abiding in eternity up, and the corporeal, ever-flowing world. Time proceeds without division. There's no division in time. There's, one might say, it's quality of the world. Through many media does time proceed according to number and wholeness. many media. So time, form, number, self-movement are consubsistent with their causes that we've just highlighted in the previous slide, or principles. So time is always involved there. Time, form, and world formation is consubsistent, subsists together with self-movement. The soul is the fountain of a self-moving world. This is a very interesting concept as far as nature is concerned, because nature in these works has a derivative motion, because nature derives her motion from one sensibility, the world soul. Mystically, time is hidden near unproceeding being. Being ever abiding, never proceeds. It's always abiding. Procession is according to division and difference, progression. Now, we might say these three are the supermassive circles of time, harmonics, self-movement, and eternity, governing the ever-restitutions of our temporal visible world. The stars, which is in these works the sidereal world, and the all of heaven in Proclus. So there are not only time in the corporeal world, but there are very massive circles of circumnavigations, of which the zodiac is one. And it's interesting that the period of 174,000 years is confirmed by now I forgot his I'll tell you in a minute. There is in the Indian philosophy, there is also allusion to these very massive cycles of time, which are not, well, they're in different planes of the world that governs and instantly outforms the whole corporeal bodies of the world. Randall Carlson, he has a good grasp, his work, he has a good grasp on, I put his link in, on the sacred geometry, the circles, and he talks about this very same figure. So we have corroboration between Proclus and the work of Randall Carlson about these kind of time frames. There are other Jovian time and Saturnian. This circle would represent Saturn, and the Jovian cycles. And then there are smaller circles of time in between these. These are the major planes. There are other planes in between. So the now of Aristotle, that's an interesting concept, which kind of puzzled me when I learned about Galilean mechanics, where they and Newtonians. Look, I'm not a physicist, but one tries to understand these things. They talk about absolute space and time in Aristotle, where the now is absolute and it's everywhere in space. Well, I think that's a problematic statement, because the now of Aristotle is a reflection. Now is here in the corporeal world. It's a reflection of eternity, which is in being. That could be, eternity is pervading with being. It's omnipresent, you might say, and there's circles inside eternity. Form and formation possesses a subsistence in matter. Matter is place in these works. Form terminated on three sides. No vacuums. And in the lower pole we have one generated visible world subject to ever changes, circular restitutions always flowing, and the idea of the past, the present, the now, and the future. To some, the structure of the fantasy, part of the fantasy in late Platonic works, is looking like this. There is incorporeal being and internal vision in the upper pole. There is the viewer and his self-knowledge in the lower pole, and this viewer is very special. It's very different from the observer we have in physics and things we have today. Stands under being, substance under being, is interconnected and interforming with through the through axis. Our cognitive world at once forming this is not good. Our cognitive world is at once forming through a bounded formation. In other words, our perception has a boundary, and this boundary is convertible. Instant harmonic interformation with nature, a unity. And we have the through axis, the interconnecting line is the symbol of elevation through inward looking, dialogue, self-discovery, and self-knowledge. Every human interaction possesses consequences. We have the horizontal line here, which indicate that we do interact with each other, and that our decisions, our actions, the things that comes out of our mouths have an impact on, and so there is an influencing, formative. This is the whole point of the dialogue of Plato, is to correctly seen, forms, converts, and brings the members of the dialogue, elevates them to higher notions and higher understanding of the world. So, given part 7a and this part, how would we say we stand in our worldview today? This is a bold move for me, because I'm going to make a comparison between the Cartesian world which we have today and with what we've just seen in respect of formation, with respect of time, and the structure, the psychological structure according to late Platonic works. In the Cartesian world we have physics, which is the main investigation, the head of all investigations, Fermilab, a world arising from matter is a theory of everything, is the grand goal of physics. We have LIGO, who have in 2016 detected the first gravitational wave. That was very interesting. Philosophy of mind and matter I question here, I just sum it briefly: materialism, evolutionary idealism, naturalism. There is a mind-spinning plethora of things that we, us as like ordinary people who try and understand things, it's a head spinner. Seriously, it's a serious head spinner. And I don't know why things are so kind of obscure. Enough of that. We have CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, looking for a more fundamental reality. There is a lot to say about this and how that kind of didn't pan out for what it was put up with, built for. In the Cartesian world, the sidereal universe, the world of stars and stuff, trees, things we can build, mountains, is separate from us. Our high sciences with a focus on information fields, CERN and these that we've just seen, computation, mechanics, optimization, the whole idea of the optimization of algorithms, of this and that, optimization of nature. Look where that brought us. Man, the machine. Here we have the whole, all the talk about emergent phenomena, which I find rather fascinating, particularly based in the prior presentation. We might see how that could have a different meaning. In psychology, we have bio-evolutionary epiphenomena like consciousness, the mind, soul. We have gender confusion, optimization, gender confusion. These things all go hand in hand. Somewhere the train fell off the tracks. In electrobiology, a very interesting field, we have fertilization of eggs. How does an egg know how to complete beings, how to form a total being? Might it have something to do with harmonic patterns, perchance? In archaeology, we're looking for a more distant self-replicating ancestor, an amino acid, a good kernel, a eukaryote, perhaps. And of course, we have the new technogarchs, social media, artificial intelligence, and big government, the new beasts of world manipulation. And yes, world manipulation of ordinary citizens have been going on for decades. I don't want to say more about that at this point because it's going to distract from our presentation. So our scientific investigations are centered here on the outer circle and the outer depths of objective quantity. We're investigating the small matter through reductive analytics, atomic physics, and all these kinds of things. Evolution, we have a philosophy of the smallest ontological constituents, psychology, and the physics of pure matter. We have Sigmund Freud's iconical image of the iceberg with just a small tip sticking out, and with a preponderance of the unconscious hidden in water nature. Here we have the ego. Conscious ego is the mediator between the unconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious. Where is the archetypes in this? In the depths of matter? Or is or we'll come to that perhaps a bit later. There's controversies about this. We have the notion of Hume, which it made me. I had a double take on this one when I it's biophysiological self-realization. Of course, this is an evolutionary statement. So in the Cartesian world, we have a linear time. This 4 billion years, but we don't know what happened before that is what we are looking to weigh up with our presentation. Evolution from a distant cause. Somehow we evolved out of distant cause. Blind will in Schopenhauer, out of nothing. Succession in time. And we have perplexion about how is emergent, how could life be formed, what is its ontology, what happens in a deep past. Well, nobody can really tell what happened in a deep past. We have the Cartesian bifurcation, the separation of matter and mind, things that appear to be in reality. I hope I'm giving a fair summary of Descartes, but I think that the man, he has done a wonderful job. I think it's perhaps those worshippers that came after him that lost contact with, shall we say, they just forgot about being that's at the upper pole of the world. Vexing questions in the Cartesian world. What is consciousness? What is life? How did it evolve? How could self-replication, pantheism? I've actually seen a move towards Platonic ideas recently, because the world of matter doesn't have answers to these kinds of things. In quantum field theory, we have a Cartesian infinite bifurcation. These worlds can bifurcate nth time. Many infinite paths the universe can split into. Don't we have, when we weigh all this up, I'm not going to give a more full expose of Cartesian mechanics and materialism. That's left front and center. Rather, I want to say, don't we have a contradiction in a point of view that has arisen here with our presentation? Well, let's have a look and see if we can find some grounds for what we are saying. Living harmonics and instantaneous formation. Here we have our sphere, reflective sphere, catoptric sphere. When it swings through the scene, reflects the world at once, forming. There's no, oh, it's a little jittery because I think I'm running, my CPU is taking strain, but at once formation as a wholeness. Our perception forms as a wholeness. We see the information of the whole, whether we move or not. I don't know how else we could express this. Sorry, I need to move on to the next slide. Come on. The thing. He's playing games with me now. Come on. Okay, let's go down to here. And we'll come to this slide as a summary. There we go. That's probably my bandwidth that's taken strain. The viewer or the self cannot be torn from her, as we've just seen the whole thing moving, from her interforming vision with all of nature. Self-knowledge and vision is one flawlessly forming wholeness, is what it looks like to us. In late Platonic works, sometimes the term New Platonism is used for late Platonism too. It's a little confusing. In late Platonism, things do not originate from baser natures. You can see there is a through axis through the universe. There's something beyond. Hence, we think the ancients used the simple living geometry to indicate how forming complexity unfolds from and always is in potentia from within being. And they use the circle, the line, the point to indicate that being and wholeness itself is omnipresent and pregnant with all things unfolding. Unity, the interconnecting, abiding principle of all complexity and all asymmetry and difference, participating within wholeness itself. To some, juxtaposed, we appear to have two world perspectives in opposition. The ideas of convertive involution and evolution indicate to me that unexplored subtle internal harmonic structures are requisite to and precede world formation. Hence, we think that ideas, appearances of whatever, true appearances of whatever time or nature, can hardly be viewed without their interior causal harmonic structures. For such views produces nothing but chimeras. Harmony always is, and as it appears to me, is necessary for looking in all knowledge worlds. Thank you for watching our videos. In our next series, video 8, we will use this icon for the next presentation. We appreciate your subscriptions because it helps us grow. Thank you for watching.